Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Tuesday, May 1st, 2018. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's NBA playoff game and look ahead to tonight's big NBA playoff games between the Cavaliers and the Raptors and the Pelicans and the Warriors. Recap yesterday's Stanley Cup playoff action and look ahead to tonight's Stanley Cup playoff action. Go over last night's Major League Baseball action and look ahead to tonight's action as well. Go over my picks for Players of the Month, my All-Stars, and make up random predictions for the month of May in baseball. Go over my 2014 NFL ReDraft, give out my draft grades, and give out my future NFL power rankings, which doesn't just involve next season, but over the span of the next 5 years. Here we go. This is going to be a long podcast. The Celtics defeat the 76ers 117-101 as they take game one to have a 1-0 series lead. Terry Rozier, 29 points. Jason Tatum had 28 points. Joel Embiid had 31 in defeat as the Celtics are up 1-0. The Cavaliers and the Raptors tonight, 8 o'clock TNT. Probably going to be Marv Albert on the call with Chris Webber. This is weird. The Raptors are a 7-point favorite. I don't get that. The Raptors should be favored by at least 3 or 4. And you know what? I think the Cavs win outright tonight. LeBron James will be the best player on the court. He'll shut up his haters, just like he did in Game 7. I'm going to say he single-handedly lifts the Cavs to a Game 1 victory. Let's say 113-110 Cleveland. I won't be shocked if he hits another game-winning shot at the buzzer. Pelicans-Warriors, 10:30 TNT. I expect this to be Kevin Harlan and Reggie Miller on the call this one. The Warriors were dominant in Game 1. Steph Curry is back tonight, so give me the Warriors, let's say 120-105 as Anthony Davis keeps the Pelicans in the game for 3 quarters, and the Warriors bench will be the difference here as the Pelicans bench is very, very weak, especially on the road against a team like Golden State. And now that Curry's healthy, the Warriors are going to be right again. 2 quick coaching notes for the NBA before I move on to hockey. The Knicks are expected to hire a new coach by the end of the week. The last person they interviewed was Mike Brown, the former Cavaliers coach, former Lakers coach. He's an assistant under Steve Kerr right now. This is interesting. They've interviewed about 10 or 11 candidates. Mike Budenholzer, Mark Jackson, David Fizdale, David Blatt, Mike Brown, Jay Larranaga, Jerry Stackhouse. I don't really remember who the other guys they interviewed. Maybe they interviewed Doc Rivers, but I don't think Doc makes sense for the job. I think a guy that would make sense for the job is Jay Larranaga, who's an assistant for the Celtics. Knicks are in a rebuild, so I won't be surprised if they don't hire a big name. But Mike Budenholzer coached a rebuilding team last year in the Hawks and got them to play hard at some points last year. And Budenholzer would be a nice fit in New York. Dave Fizdale would obviously be a good fit. All the fans want Mark Jackson, but I don't think he's the right guy for this job because I just don't like how it ended for him in Golden State. So it should be interesting to see who they hire. The Milwaukee Bucks are in the hunt for a new coach, and that's where I think Mike Budenholzer ends up going. I wouldn't rule out Dave Fizdale there or David Blatt there. David Blatt, I think, would be my guess for the Knicks because he has connections to Steve Mills and Scott Perry. He was in the mix for the job 2 years ago when Phil Jackson was still running the show, but the connection with Mills and David Blatt, that makes sense a little bit, but I'm not a Blatt fan. He was fired from the Cavs 2 years ago, but let's be real, LeBron pretty much fired him. So if I had to guess who gets what job, I'm going to say Fizdale ends up getting maybe the Cavaliers job if Tyronn Lue loses his job. And I think one of those like Jay Larranaga, I think Larranaga would fit nice with New York. I'm not a big Stackhouse fan, although he's done a nice job coaching the Raptors G League team. I'm going to say Blatt ends up with the Knicks, and Budenholzer ends up with Milwaukee. So it should be an interesting coaching carousel around the NBA. And there's still coaches to be fired. Like Billy Donovan, don't rule that out if he gets let go. Although Terry Stotts is in danger of losing his job in Portland, that's not deserving. He's a good coach and has done a great job with the Trailblazers the last couple years, so I doubt that job becomes open, although there are some strong rumors about that. I think Gentry saved his job by getting the Pelicans to the second round. So, should be an interesting coaching carousel. And I'd mentioned that Tyronn Lue could be in danger of losing his job as well. Everyone's talking about Luke Walton. I heard some rumors that Steve Kerr might retire, but that's probably because of his back issues. So there's talks about him going back to TNT and Luke Walton leaving the Lakers to go to Golden State and Dave Fizdale going to LA. I don't think that's happening. And who knows with Popovich? Like, that isn't a lock that he's back because of the passing of his wife. So like I said, should be a fun coaching carousel in the NBA. We'll get to that on another podcast. Hockey. 2 games last night. The Lightning defeated the Bruins 4-2. They even up the series at 1 apiece. Big win for Tampa Bay. First period, Yanni Gourde, second of the playoffs on the power play, assisted by Braden Point and Mikhail Sergachev, give the Lightning a 1-0 lead. Charlie McAvoy's first of the playoffs, assisted by Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand, ties it up at 1 apiece. Second period, Tyler Johnson's third of the playoffs, assisted by Braden Point and Andre Palat, gives the Bolts a 2-1 lead. Third period, Andre Palat's second of the playoffs, assisted by Braden Point, 3-1 Bolts. Torrey Krug's third of the playoffs, assisted by David Pasternak and Brad Marchand, gets the Bruins within 1. Braden Point, second of the playoffs, assisted by Victor Hedman into the empty net, makes the Lightning 4-2 winners. The series is now 1-1. Big win for Tampa Bay. Andre Vasilevsky, not the greatest numbers in the world, but you'll take it because it's in a win. 18 saves on 20 shots. Tuukka Rask was really good. 27 saves on 30 shots in defeat, though. The Golden Knights defeated the Sharks 4-3 in overtime to take a 2-1 series lead. Scoreless game in the first period, but in the second period, the Sharks scored first. Timo Mears on the power play is second of the playoffs. This is by Chris Tierney and Mikhail Bodecker, 1-0 Sharks. Colin Miller's second of the playoffs on the power play, assisted by James Neal and David Perron, 1-1. Jonathan Marchessault, second of the playoffs on the power play, assisted by Alex Tuck and Riley Smith, 2-1 Vegas. Riley Smith's first of the playoffs, assisted by William Karlsson and Jonathan Marchessault, 3-1 Knights. Third period, Evander Kane's fourth of the playoffs, assisted by Brent Burns and Dylan DeMello, makes it a 3-2 game. Thomas Hurdle's fourth of the playoffs, assisted by Justin Braun and Kevin LeBlanc, 3-3 game. Overtime, William Karlsson's fourth of the playoffs, assisted by James Neal and Jonathan Marchessault, 4-3 Vegas was your final. Marc-Andre Fleury was absolutely brilliant. I think he's one of the favorites for the Conn Smythe Trophy right now. 39 saves on 42 shots. Martin Jones was okay. 29 saves on 33 shots. Tonight you have 2 games. Capitals Penguins from Pittsburgh. Who's going to take a 2-1 series lead? I'm going to say it is the Penguins at home. Let's say a 4-3 overtime win for the Penguins here. 8 o'clock, CNBC, Predators at the Jets. Game 3 should be a ton of fun. I like the Jets here, 5-3 in regulation. That last goal being an empty net, or let's say Blake Wheeler puts it in the empty net. 5-3 Winnipeg. Connor Hellebuck has a great game. So, give me the Jets to win Game 3 to get a 2-1 series lead. Major League Baseball. A couple interesting results last night. The Indians defeated the Rangers 7-5 as they improve to 15-12. Texas drops to 11-19. Cody Allen with the win. Chris Martin with the loss. Jeff Bellevue with the save. Top of the fourth, RBI ground out, Joey Gallo, 1-0 Rangers. Bottom of the fourth, Fielder's choice, Brandon Guyer, 1-1. Bottom of the fifth, RBI double, Jason Kipnis, 2-1 Indians. Top of the seventh, home run, Robinson Chirinos makes it a 2-2 game. Bottom of the seventh, RBI single, Jose Ramirez, 3-2 Indians. Top of the eighth, RBI double, Jurickson Profar, 3-3. RBI double, Nomar Maraza, 4-3 Rangers. Bottom of the eighth, here come the Indians. Infield single, Francisco Lindor, 4-4. Go-ahead RBI double, Jose Ramirez, 5-4 Indians. 2-run single, Yonder Alonso, who's just been brilliant for the Indians this season, 7-4 Cleveland. Top of the ninth, infield single, Nomar Mazara, 7-5. That's your final. Trevor Bauer, 6 2/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, and 11 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 2.45 ERA. Cole Hamels, 5 innings, 4 hits, an earned run, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 4.08 ERA. The Cubs defeated the Rockies 3-2 as they improve to 16-10. Colorado drops to 15-15. Luke Farrell with the win. Kyle Freeland with the loss. Steve Chizik with the save. I had the Cubs on yesterday's podcast, and I was correct. Bottom of the second, RBI single, Addison Russell, 1-0 Cubs. Top of the fifth, RBI single, Charlie Blackmon, 1-1. RBI double, Nolan Arenado, 2-1 Rockies. Bottom of the fifth, RBI single, Albert Almora, 2-2. Bottom of the sixth, RBI groundout, Anthony Rizzo, 3-2 Cubs was your final. John Lester, 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 2.73 ERA. Kyle Freeland pitched okay, 7 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, a walk, and 5 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 4.24 ERA. The Nationals defeated the Pirates 3-2 as they improved to 13-16. Pittsburgh drops to 17-12. Tanner Roark with the win. Jamison Tyon with the loss. Brandon Kitzler with the save. Bottom of the second, RBI single, Wilmer Difo, 1-0 Nats. Bottom of the fourth, RBI single, Tanner Roark, 2-0 Nats. RBI single, Trey Turner, 3-0 Nats. Top of the fifth, RBI double, Jamison Tyon, 3-1 game. Top of the seventh, home run, Corey Dickerson, 3-2. That was your final. Tanner Roark, 7 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 3.55 ERA. Jamison Tyon, 6 innings, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 4.83 ERA. The Red Sox defeated the Royals 10-6 as they improved to 21-7. Casey drops to 7-21. Hector Velasquez with the win. Jason Hamill with the loss. Top of the first, bases loaded walk, Salvador Perez, 1-0 Royals, followed by a bases loaded walk by Lucas Duda, 2-0 Royals. Infield single, John Jay, 3-0 Royals. Bottom of the second, home run, Mitch Moreland makes it 3-1. Bases loaded walk, Mitch Moreland. In the bottom of the third, 3-2. And a grand slam by Xander Bogaerts. The Red Sox 6th grand slam as a team this season gives the Red Sox a 6-3 lead. Top of the fourth, RBI double, Alcides Escobar, 6-4. RBI double, Whit Merrifield, 6-5. Bottom of the fourth, sacrifice fly, Andrew Benintendi, 7-5, Red Sox. Bottom of the fifth, RBI single, Eduardo Nunez, 8-5, Red Sox. Bottom of the seventh, fielder's choice, Rafael Devers, 9-5, Red Sox. Jackie Bradley Jr. safe on the throwing error by Chester Cuthbert as Rafael Devers scores, 10-5, Red Sox. In the top of the ninth, RBI double, Whit Merrifield, 10-6 was your final. Eduardo Rodriguez was not good. 4 innings, 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 4.78 ERA. Jason Hamill, probably his worst game of the early season, 4 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 8 earned runs, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 4.91 ERA. The Rays defeated the Tigers 3-2 as they improve to 13-14. Detroit drops to 11-16. Jacob Faria with the win. Shane Green with the loss. Jose Alvarado with the save. All the scoring was done in the ninth inning. Top of the ninth, 2-run home run, C.J. Cron, 2-0 Rays. Brad Miller, home run, 3-0 Rays. Bottom of the ninth, 2-run single by Victor Martinez made it a 3-2 game to make things a little interesting there in the bottom of the ninth. Jacob Faria was really good. 8 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, a walk, and 6 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 4.6 ERA. Jordan Zimmerman had a quality game. 7 innings, 2 hits, and no earned runs, a walk, and 5 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 5.81 ERA. The Brewers defeat the Reds 6-5 as they improve to 17-13. Cincinnati drops to 7-22. Brandon Woodruff with the win. Willie Peralta with the loss. Josh Hader with the save. Top of the fourth, home run, Manny Pena, 1-0 Brewers. Bottom of the fourth, 2-run double, Eugenio Suarez, 2-1 Reds. Top of the fifth, go-ahead home run, Lorenzo Cain, 3-2 Brewers. Bottom of the fifth, sacrifice fly, Jose Peraza makes it 3-3. 2-run single, Eugenio Suarez, 5-3 Reds. Top of the seventh, on the double steal, Christian Yelich scored on the throwing error by Tucker Barnhart to make it a 5-4 game. Then Danny Santana with the go-ahead double to make it 6-5 Brewers. Julius Chacin, 4 in the third innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, and a strikeout, leaves the game with a 4.54 ERA. Brandon Finnegan was okay. 5 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 7.27 ERA. The Marlins defeat the Phillies 8-4 as they improve to 10-18. Philly drops to 16-12. Merandy Gonzalez with the win, Jake Arrieta with the loss. Top of the second, home run, Jorge Alfaro, 2-0 Phillies. Bottom of the second, RBI ground out, Lewis Brinson makes it 2-1. Bottom of the third, RBI double, Derek Dietrich, 2-2. 2-run double, Brian Anderson, 4-2 Marlins. RBI ground out, Miguel Rojas, 5-2 Marlins. Top of the fourth, 2-run home run, Miguel Franco, 5-4 game. Bottom of the fourth, Starlin Castro, RBI double, 6-4 Marlins. Bottom of the seventh, 2-run home run, Brian Anderson, 8-4 Marlins. Your final. Dan Straley wasn't great in his first start of the season. 4 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 4 walks, and a strikeout, leaves the game with a 9 ERA. Jake Arrieta, not good. 3 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 6 earned runs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 3.49 ERA. The Blue Jays defeated the Twins 7-5 as they improved to 16-12. Minnesota drops to 9-15. Aaron Sanchez with the win. Lance Lynn with the loss. Roberto Osuna with the save. Top of the second, infield single. Lourdes Gurriel, 1-0 Blue Jays. Bases loaded walk. Curtis Granderson, 2-0 Blue Jays. Top of the fourth, Granderson scores on the pass ball by Mitch Garver. 3-0 Blue Jays. 2-run home run, Justin Smoke, 5-0 Blue Jays. Bottom of the fourth, RBI ground out, Logan Morrison gets the Twins on the board, make it a 5-1 game. Top of the fifth, home run, Russell Martin, 6-1 Blue Jays. Bottom of the fifth, 2-run home run, Eduardo Escobar, 6-3 game. Bottom of the sixth, Mitch Garver, RBI ground out, 6-4. Bottom of the seventh, RBI double, Max Kepler makes it a 6-5 game. And then the top of the ninth, RBI single, Yangervis Solarte makes it a 7-5 game. Aaron Sanchez, 6 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 4.06 ERA. Not a good outing for Lance Lynn. 5 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 5 walks, and 4 strikeouts, leaves the game with the 8.37 ERA. The Astros defeated the Yankees 2-1. This was probably the best game of the night as the Astros improved to 20-10. The Yankees dropped to 18-10 as the Astros snapped the Yankees' 9-game win streak. Charlie Morton was brilliant with the win. Sonny Gray, his best outing of the season, but it's a defeat. Ken Giles with the save. Bottom of the first, RBI ground out, Carlos Correa, 1-0 Astros. Bottom of the fourth, RBI double, Yuli Gurriel, 2-0 Astros. Top of the eighth, Yankees make it interesting. RBI single, Brett Gardner makes it a 2-1 game. That was your final. Charlie Morton was just brilliant. 7 2/3 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 10 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 1.72 ERA. Sonny Gray had his best start of the season thus far. 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 6.67 ERA. The Diamondbacks defeated the Dodgers 8-5 as they improve to 20-8. The Dodgers dropped to 12-16. I have to get to a bad injury on the Dodgers in a couple minutes involving one of their core players, but let me get through this real quick. Zach Greinke with the win, Ross Stripling with the loss, Brad Boxberger with the save. Bottom of the second, home run A.J. Pollock, 1-0 Diamondbacks. RBI single, Nick Ahmed, 2-0 Diamondbacks. RBI single, Zach Greinke, 3-0 Diamondbacks. Bottom of the fourth, home run, Nick Ahmed, 4-0 Diamondbacks. Bottom of the fifth, another home run, A.J. Pollock, 5-0 Diamondbacks. Top of the sixth, RBI single, Yasmani Grandal, makes it 5-1. RBI triple, Jock Peterson, 5-2. Top of the seventh, home run, Max Muncy, makes it a 5-3 game. Bottom of the seventh, bases loaded, hit by pitch. David Peralta was hit on the pitch. 6-3 Diamondbacks. Also in the bottom of the seventh, fielder's choice, Gerard Dyson, as a run scores on the error by Chris Taylor. They make it 7-3 Diamondbacks. Top of the 8th, sacrifice fly, Jock Peterson, 7-4 RBI single. Matt Kemp makes it a 7-5 game. A.J. Pollock's third home run of the game makes it an 8-5 final. Zach Greinke, 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, a walk, and 10 strikeouts with a 4.5 ERA against his former team. Ross Stripling, 4 innings, 8 hits, 4 earned runs, a walk, and 2 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 2.45 ERA. A terrible injury for the Dodgers. Corey Seager's out for the season. He's getting Tommy John surgery. This is such a shock, a devastating blow to the Dodgers. I'm interested to see what they do. I don't want to write them off yet completely. They can put either Chris Taylor or Kiki Hernandez at short as like a little platoon, or they can go out and trade for somebody like a Freddie Galvis of the Padres once they call up Fernando Tate, stay as in the Padres. So it should be an interesting couple weeks for the Dodgers here. As I get to my baseball predictions, the Dodgers are certainly involved in it. That's a little bit of a spoiler alert. Last but not least, in terms of results, the Giants feed the Padres 6-5 as they improve to 15-14. San Diego drops to 10-20. Pierce Johnson with the win. Brad Hand with the loss. Bottom of the first, RBI triple. Andrew McCutchen, 1-0 Giants. RBI double, Buster Posey, 2-0 Giants. RBI single, Austin Jackson, 3-0 Giants. Top of the fourth RBI single, Manuel Margot. Makes it a 3-1 game. Top of the fifth, Christian Villanueva, RBI ground out, 3-2. Top of the sixth, Manuel Margot safe on the error by Evan Longoria, makes it 3-3. Go ahead, sacrifice fly by A.J. Ellis, 4-3 Padres. RBI single, Chase Headley, 5-3 Padres. Here come the Giants, bottom of the ninth. RBI single, Evan Longoria makes it 5-4. Then the 2-run walk-off RBI single by Nick Hundley gives the Giants a 6-5 win. Jeff Samardzija was okay. 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Leaves the game with a 5.27 ERA. Eric Lauer, not really that good. 5 innings, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Leaves the game with a 10.13 ERA. Today's games, Rangers-Indians. Doug Fister against Mike Clevenger. Pirates-Nationals. Chad Cole and Max Scherzer. Royals-Red Sox. Jacob Junis and Chris Sale. Rays-Tigers. Chris Archer and Matt Boyd. Brewers-Reds. Chase Anderson and Homer Bailey. Braves-Mets. Mike Soroka making his big league debut against Noah Syndergaard. Phillies-Marlins. Zach Eflin and Harleen Garcia. Rockies-Cubs. John Gray and Kyle Hendricks. Yankees-Astros. Jordan Montgomery and Justin Verlander. Blue Jays-Twins. Marco Estrada and Kyle Gibson. White Sox-Cardinals. James Fields and Michael Wacha. Dodgers-Diamondbacks. Clayton Kershaw and Matt Koch. Orioles-Angels, Alex Cobb and Nick Trapano. Athletics-Mariners. Andrew Triggs and Felix Hernandez. And last but not least, Padres-Giants, you have Tyson Ross and Andrew Suarez. I went over the Corey Seager injury, so I don't have to get back into that. Now I'm going to give out my awards for the month of April and in Major League Baseball. American League, Player of the Month, my winner, Didi Gregorius of the New York Yankees. He leads the league in runs batted in. He was the best position player on the Yankees so far this season, especially this month. I don't know if that will last the whole season because I personally think when it's all said and done, it's going to be Aaron Judge. But Gregorius deserves a lot of credit for carrying that Yankee offense, at least helping. There's been some other guys contributing too, such as Judge, and Gary Sanchez has picked it up of late, but Didi was just tremendous. As I mentioned, led the league in RBIs. He's tied with Mike Trout and Mitch Haniger for home runs. So he's my pick for this. Second place, Mookie Betts of the Boston Red Sox. He's been the Red Sox best player so far. He had a 3-homer game against the Angels. And he is heading for big things this season. 3, Manny Machado of the Baltimore Orioles. Machado would be much higher if he was on a winning team, but he's on a bad Orioles team, which punishes him a little bit. He's going to be the talk of trade rumors all summer long, but this is a great start to his contract year. 4, Mitch Haniger, Seattle Mariners. This is very deserving. The Mariners are one of the biggest surprises in baseball to start the season. Haniger has 10 homers. I don't know if that lasts. We'll see. But he's number 4 on my Player of the Month list. And last but not least, number 5, Aaron Judge of the Yankees. Judge is putting up monster numbers again. He's hitting for average. 7 homers thus far. He's striking out a lot, though, but that's what the sluggers do. But that batting average and the home run and the RBI total is just significant. And he and Didi Gregorius pretty much carried that Yankee offense this whole month with guys like Giancarlo Stanton and Gary Sanchez struggling in April, although both of those guys have picked it up a little bit lately. The NL Player of the Month, Ozzie Albies, Atlanta Braves. This was such a hard call, but I'm going to take Albies, who is up there among the National League leaders in home runs. He's the leadoff hitter for the Braves, and he's a big part of their future. Number 2, Charlie Blackmon of the Colorado Rockies. Yes, the Rockies are 15-15, but Blackmon's just been a monster this season. He's their leadoff hitter too. A ton of homers and RBIs to start the season. He got paid already, and usually guys that get paid tend to slack a little bit, but Blackmon has not. 3, Asdrubal Cabrera, New York Mets. Cabrera's been rejuvenated this season. He's a big part of the Mets' hot start this season. 4, Abdul Herrera, Philadelphia Phillies. Unbelievable that Herrera's hitting in the 3 spot. He should be hitting leadoff for the Phillies like he originally was. But it's worked out for them thus far this season. I'm interested to see what they do with Herrera for the rest of the season. Do they move him back to leadoff, where I thought he excelled, but he's thrived in the 3 spot. 5, Brandon Belt of the San Francisco Giants. He just deserves the spot because of the Giants overachieving thus far this season without Madison Bumgarner. So I got to put a Giants player on there, and that honor is going to be Brandon Belt. Although Longoria has been hitting a lot better lately, but Longoria got off to a bit of a slow start, and Belt's hitting for both average and power. The American League Pitcher of the Month, Sean Manaea of the Oakland Athletics. He's been brilliant this season, although he has a couple losses, but his ERA is just brilliant. He's the ace of the Athletics staff. They won that trade against the Royals, that Zobrist deal, although Zobrist was a part of the Royals championship run in 2015. But the A's win this trade. The Royals gave up an ace in Manaea, and they probably regret it now, especially after the tragic death of Yandero Ventura. But let's be honest, no one saw the Ventura thing coming. But still, the Royals regret giving up Manaea right now, and he's a stud. And no hitting the Red Sox was absolutely impressive. Number 2, the guy that probably will win the actual award, Charlie Morton of the Houston Astros. He's the best number 5 starter in baseball. It isn't even close. He was so dominant against the Yankees last night. He's just off to a dominant start this season. He only had one subpar start so far this season. I forget who that was against. I think it was against Seattle. But Morton's just been brilliant. Number 3, his teammate, Justin Verlander. Verlander's looked like the guy that he was in the playoffs last year. Number 4, another Astros pitcher, Garrett Cole. He's looked like the best offseason pickup thus far. He has teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Cubs regretting trading for him. And number 5, Reynaldo Lopez of the Chicago White Sox. I got to give Lopez the love. He's just been outstanding this season. Yeah, he has losses, but he's been the best pitcher on the White Sox thus far this season. He deserves credit. The NL Pitcher of the Month, Johnny Cueto, San Francisco Giants. Cueto's been brilliant. His ERA is under 1, and he's very deserving of this award. I think he's trade bait come summer if he continues to pitch well. 2, Max Scherzer, Washington Nationals. Scherzer's just been brilliant this season. He still looked like the same guy as he was last year, despite his age getting up there. Scherzer's still brilliant. 3, Jacob deGrom, New York Mets. DeGrom's been brilliant this year. Him and Noah Syndergaard are going to carry the Mets all season, and DeGrom has just been brilliant the first month. 4, Carlos Martinez of the St. Louis Cardinals. Martinez has been great this year. Only one bad start, which was opening day against the Mets. But ever since then, he's been so good. 5, Patrick Corbin, Arizona Diamondbacks. Corbin's been the best pitcher on the team that has the best record in the National League right now, and he deserves a lot of credit. And he's in a contract year too, which helps him. I've had a hard time with the rookies of the month because the rookies that are going to be up for Rookie of the Year come the end of the season were just recently called up. So this was a tough call for the rookies of the month. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out and see who the league picks for their awards this month. AL Rookie of the Month. Shohei Ohtani, Los Angeles Angels. This pick is by default. I think it's incredible that he has a couple home runs and a couple of wins already. A lot of people wrote him off in spring training and labeled him a bust. But he hasn't had some good starts. Like, he flopped against the Red Sox, and he wasn't that great against the Astros. But this is pretty much by default. And number 2, Miguel Andujar, New York Yankees. He's been brilliant filling in for Brandon Drury at third base for the Bronx Bombers. I think he's going to finish the season as their third baseman. I don't think Drury's going to be on the team come September. I think he could be trade bait if they are willing to go out and get an extra arm in their bullpen or in their rotation. 3, Chance Sisco, Baltimore Orioles. He should be their starting catcher over Caleb Joseph. He's a nice player, and I think he's a key piece for them long-term. Number 4, Gleyber Torres, New York Yankees. He's come up and looked like every bit as the player as they thought. He's been tremendous defensively. He's hitting over 300 so far this season, and he's looked like he belongs. I think Torres can end up winning the award. Number 5, Yonny Chirinos, Tampa Bay Rays. Chirinos has done a nice job putting in work for the Rays, both as a reliever and as a starter. And Kevin Cash, I think, has done a nice job managing this team after their slow start. NL Rookie of the Month. I think this is easy. Christian Villanueva, San Diego Padres. 8 home runs on the season. He had the 3-homer game. I believe that was against the Dodgers, if I'm not mistaken. But Villanueva is a key piece for them long term. Number 2 is another Padre, Joey Lucchesi, a pitcher. He's a good starter for them this far early this season. Does he keep it up? It's remained to be seen. Number 3, Brian Anderson, Miami Marlins. He's off to a solid start for them. He's a key piece for their future. Number 4, Harrison Bader of the St. Louis Cardinals. He's been solid for them, getting some big hits and driving in runs. Number 5, Scott Kingery, Philadelphia Phillies, same thing. He's been driving in runs for the Phillies, who are off to a good start this season. The American League Reliever of the Month, Edwin Diaz of the Seattle Mariners. I believe he leads the league in saves right now, if I'm not mistaken, but he's just been so good this season. Number 2, Calvin Herrera, Kansas City Royals. He hasn't given up an earned run yet this season. I think he's bound to get traded at the trade deadline, though. Number 3, Chris Stavinsky, Houston Astros. He's been so good so far this season, proving so far that last year wasn't a fluke. Number 4, Craig Kimbrell, Boston Red Sox. He's off to a solid start this season, although he is 1-1. And number 5, Aroldis Chapman of the New York Yankees. Chapman hasn't blown a save yet, but he's off to a solid start with a 1.5 ERA. NL Reliever of the Month, Josh Hader, Milwaukee Brewers. His strikeout to walk ratio is just ridiculous. He struck out 8 batters last night, and he is absolutely a no-brainer for the NL Reliever of the Month. Number 2, Brandon Morrow of the Chicago Cubs. He hasn't given up an earned run yet. He's been a solid closer for them. Number 3, Arodys Viciano of the Braves. He's been really good. Number 4, Matt Albers, Milwaukee Brewers. Off to a solid start, and Albers, along with Josh Hader, have helped the Brewers offset the loss of their closer. And number 5, Gerasis Familia of the New York Mets. Familia only had 1 blow-up this year, which was against the Atlanta Braves. Other than that, he's been pretty solid. All right, my All-Stars. I'm going to reveal my starters first, and then my reserves, and then the pitchers. American League catcher, Gary Sanchez, New York Yankees. First base, Miguel Cabrera of the Detroit Tigers. Second base, Jose Altuve of the Houston Astros. Shortstop, Manny Machado of the Baltimore Orioles. Third base, Daniel Robertson of the Tampa Bay Rays. Left field, Mookie Betts of the Boston Red Sox. Center field, Mike Trout of the Los Angeles Angels. Right field, Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees. DH, JD Martinez of the Boston Red Sox. Reserves, catcher, Robinson Chirinos of the Texas Rangers. First base, Jose Abreu of the Chicago White Sox. Second base, Jed Lowry of the Oakland Athletics. Shortstop, I have two, Didi Gregorius of the New York Yankees and Carlos Correa of the Houston Astros. You could argue Didi should be starting over Machado, but Machado gets the edge here because he has the better batting average right now. Third base, Adrian Beltre, Texas Rangers. Outfield, D. Gordon, Seattle Mariners. Kevin Pillar, Toronto Blue Jays. Mitch Haniger, Seattle Mariners. And Nick Castellanos, Detroit Tigers. The reserve DH/infielder, Eduardo Escobar of the Minnesota Twins. Pitchers, Corey Kluber of the Indians. Luis Severino of the Yankees. Chris Sale of the Red Sox. Charlie Morton of the Astros. Justin Verlander of the Astros. Garrett Cole of the Astros. Sean Manaea of the Athletics. Reynaldo Lopez of the White Sox. Blake Snell of the Tampa Bay Rays. Relief pitchers, Kelvin Herrera of the Royals. Craig Kimbrell of the Red Sox. Aroldis Chapman of the Yankees, Edwin Diaz of the Mariners, and Chris Davinsky of the Astros. National League, I'm going to do the same order. Starters, reserves, then pitchers. For the National League, catcher, Yasmani Grandal, Los Angeles Dodgers. First base, Freddie Freeman, Atlanta Braves. Second base, Ozzie Albies, Atlanta Braves. Shortstop is Durval Cabrera, New York Mets. Third base, Christian Villanueva, San Diego Padres. Outfield, Lorenzo Cain, Milwaukee Brewers. Abdul Herrera, Philadelphia Phillies. Bryce Harper, Washington Nationals. DH, Chris Bryant, Chicago Cubs. Reserves, catcher, Francisco Cervelli, Pittsburgh Pirates. First base, I have two, Jose Ramirez of the Cardinals and Joey Votto of the Reds. Second base, DJ LeMahieu of the Rockies. Shortstop, Paul DeJong of the Cardinals. Third base, Logan Arenado of the Rockies. Outfielders, Charlie Blackmon of the Rockies, Cody Bellinger of the Dodgers, A.J. Pollock of the Diamondbacks, Rhys Hoskins of the Phillies, Kyle Schwarber of the Cubs. I know I'm going to regret not putting Ronald Acuna on this list, but the reason why he's not on the list is because he was just called up. He'll probably be on the list come May. Starting pitchers, Max Scherzer of the Nationals, Noah Syndergaard of the Mets, Jacob deGrom of the Mets, Aaron Nola of the Phillies, Harleen Garcia of the Marlins, Carlos Martinez of the Cardinals, Johnny Cueto of the Giants, Patrick Corbin of the Diamondbacks, Trevor Williams of the Pirates. Relief pitchers, Brendan Morrow of the Cubs, Josh Hader of the Brewers, Races Familia of the Mets, Arodys Viciano of the Braves, and Hunter Strickland of the Giants. Those are my All-Stars. Now I'm going to give you some predictions for the month of May. I mentioned the Dodgers. They're going to miss Corey Seager. He was off to a solid start this season. He's a guy that just flat out hits, drives and runs. They're going to miss his power too. Although, I like Kiki Hernandez and Chris Taylor as role players, but they're nowhere as good as Seager. And there's going to be rumors for Manny Machado going to the Dodgers and chatter about it. And if things continue to go bad, which I think they might, there's going to be talks about them possibly selling at the trade deadline, like giving up Clayton Kershaw possibly for a team that could use him as a rental. Or somebody like maybe even Chris Taylor or Kiki Hernandez. I know they're not going to give away Buehler or Alex Verdugo in any type of Machado deal, but I won't be shocked if there's talks about them possibly selling at the trade deadline. And they could trade away guys like Kershaw and guys with value for guys that can replenish their farm system. Then they can turn around and compete in 2019. So that's your case for the Dodgers selling. Another prediction. Giancarlo Stanton hits 10 or more home runs this month. I think Giancarlo bursts out of his slump. He's my pick for the American League position player to bust out of a slump. The Pittsburgh Pirates will be below 500. They're the biggest surprise in baseball so far this season, and certainly the biggest surprise in the National League. And I just think they regress, and guys like Trevor Williams and guys have been performing. Chad Cole, I'm not a fan of their rotation. I think their rotation will regress, although Jameson Taillon is a stud. I think the Washington Nationals will start to perform better and will be above 500. I think some of their guys will start to pick it up. Scherzer and Strasburg will pitch well. Tanner Roark and Joe Gonzalez will pitch well. Bryce Harper will get it going. Maybe they get Anthony Rendon and Daniel Murphy back from injury. Trey Turner will start to hit. So I'm optimistic about the Nationals' chances of getting back above 500. I originally had Dodgers and Nationals above 500 on this list, but I wrote that down before Corey Seager's injury. So let's just say the Nationals get above 500. I think the Yankees will be in first place in the American League East and will have the best record in Major League Baseball. They closed out the month on a 9-game winning streak and finished the month at 18-10. And after being inconsistent, they've shown signs of what they're really going to be. Their rotation's been excellent during the end of this month. And once they're back home from this long road trip, they will start the rake again against the subpar teams in their division. Carlos Correa will win the American League Player of the Month for May. He's shown signs of getting hot. He had 2 hits yesterday against the Yankees. I think he's bound to have a big month. Bryce Harper wins National League Player of the Month for May. I think this is almost a lock. He was off to a good start this season, but he cooled off a little bit. I think the injuries of Rendon and Murphy have a lot to do with it because now they're trying to pitch around Harper. I just think that he's going to get on a roll and put himself as the favorite for the National League MVP. Luis Severino will win the American League Pitcher of the Month for May. Severino had a solid month. He only had one rough start, and now is against the Red Sox in Fenway Park in the cold in April. But I think he's going to be brilliant this month. He has a start coming up against the Astros, and I think he's going to pitch well in that start. Clayton Kershaw wins the NL Pitcher of the Month for May. We talked about how Kershaw could end up being trade bait if the Dodgers decide to be a seller if things go south. But I think he's going to be motivated this month. He had a disappointing April, and I think he'll pitch really well beginning tonight against the Diamondbacks as he'll try to put the Dodgers on his back. Gleyber Torres will win the American League Rookie of the Month for May. Gleyber's shown a lot of good signs since he's been called up. He's played great second base. I just think he has to get his power game going a little bit, and I think he'll be pretty good. I think this is the lock prediction, and that is Ronald Acuna wins the National League Rookie of the Month for May. He's been just brilliant since the Braves called him up last week, and he's going to take off. Andrew Miller comes back off the disabled list and wins the American League Reliever of the Month for May. I'm a big fan of Miller. If things go bad for the Indians this season, which I don't think so, then he could be trade bait. But like I said, the Indians should win that division easily. That division's easily the worst one in baseball. Kenley Jansen wins the National League Reliever of the Month for May. Jansen was off to a slow start this season. I think he turns it around in May, just like his teammate Clayton Kershaw. Jarlin Garcia regresses. He's the pitcher that I think will regress after a nice start in the National League, and pitchers and hitters will start to figure him out a little bit after he's flirted with a couple no-hitters. This is my favorite one. I think this is going to happen. A big-name player gets designated for assignment due to either regression or poor play, or if they're currently injured and their replacement player is thriving. There are many candidates for this. There are a couple candidates on the Yankees. I think Dellin Betances is a candidate for this. He's struggled this season. Sonny Gray, if he continues to struggle. Jacoby Ellsbury, if things go poorly in rehab and they can just flat out designate him for assignment. Brandon Drury's too young of a player. I don't see that happening to him. Maybe Troy Tulowitzki of the Blue Jays. Edlemis Diaz is thriving, and so is Yangervis Solarte. So maybe he's the guy that gets designated for assignment, or if Bo Bichette gets called up, potentially. That's another candidate. Yeah, but I think Tulowitzki's a real candidate for this. And so is Jacoby Ellsbury. And I think the long shots are Sonny Gray if he struggles. And as well as Dylan Betances. So I think the two favorites for this, as I mentioned, Jacoby Ellsbury and Troy Tulowitzki. Trying to think if I could come up with another one. David Price would have been an interesting candidate if he got off to a slow start with the Red Sox this season. Irvin Santana, if he came off the disabled list and he was terrible. There's a couple of them I could think of. Oh, Matt Harvey's another one. He's already off to a bad start. And if he continues to struggle in that relief role, the Mets can flat out designate him for assignment. And another Yankee candidate's Neil Walker. Maybe if Adrian Gonzalez comes back to earth for the Mets, I could see that being a possibility. Another one could be Eduardo Nunez for the Red Sox. He hasn't got off to the best of starts. There's a couple candidates for this. So that's probably my favorite one. And a lot of the guys I mentioned are players in the American League East. I think the San Francisco Giants regress from their 15-14 start, and Madison Bumgarner trade talk will heat up. I just think the 15-14 is a little bit aberrational. They saw the Padres a lot at home, and they caught the Dodgers at the right time when they were struggling. They caught the Angels at the right time, so I just think they'll see better competition. Oh, and they caught the Nationals at the right time, too. So I think they'll regress. The better teams will exploit them, especially on the road. And Madison Bumgarner will be the talk of the trade market along with Manny Machado, and I'll get to Machado in a little bit. The Chicago Cubs will be in first place in the National League Central and will have the best record in the National League. They're currently on a 5-game win streak, and I think they keep this up. Chris Bryant starting to hit a little bit. Kyle Schwarber has been playing well. Anthony Rizzo's off the disabled list. I think there's bounce-back potential with a couple of their starting pitchers. John Lester's off to a good start. And speaking of bounce-back pitchers on the Chicago Cubs, I think the turnaround pitcher that will have a bounce-back will be Jose Quintana. He will lower his ERA by 2.5 runs. He's currently off to a dreadful start, and I think that he's bound to have a turnaround. He's so talented, and I think he turns it around. John Lester's off to a good start this season. Yu Darvish has been inconsistent, but I think Jose Quintana's the one that has a big turnaround on the Cubs. The Miami Marlins will have the Major League's worst record. This is bound to happen. They have the worst roster in the league. The talent will eventually come up to them, and I think the Reds will start to play better a little bit with a couple home games coming up. The Kansas City Royals will have the American League's worst record. I think this is easy. This is the case right now. Their schedule's getting a little bit harder with a couple road games, and I think that they'll have the worst record in the AL as trade rumors start to heat up around Salvador Perez and Mike Moustakas. And Kelvin Herrera, obviously. David Price and Rick Porcello regress. These guys are off of solid starts on the Red Sox, and I just think better hitters will start to rough up their ERAs a little bit, especially once they go to Yankee Stadium. I won't be shocked if David Price flops there when the Red Sox go there next week. And I think Rick Porcello will regress as well. The Tampa Bay Rays will promote Christian Arroyo. I think this is a good one, and there hasn't been much buzz about him, and I like Arroyo. He's the key piece they got back in the Evan Longoria trade along with Denard Span, and I think Arroyo will come up and make an impact on Tampa Bay. And Tampa is a little bit versatile. They have some versatile guys. Daniel Robertson's versatile. Arroyo's versatile. So it should be interesting to see what they do with Arroyo. And I mentioned Manny Machado before. I think trade rumors will start to swirl around the entire Orioles core. Not just Machado, but Adam Jones, Brad Bach, Zach Britton, who isn't even back yet off the disabled list. Maybe even Andrew Kashner. I know Alex Cobb's untradeable. He's off to a bad start. Maybe even Jonathan Scope. But I think that trade talks will start to swirl as they continue to struggle. Jeimer Candelario makes strides and looks like a keeper for the Tigers. I like Candelario. He's off to a solid start this season, and he'll continue that in the month of May. I think the Minnesota Twins continue to struggle. Meanwhile, the Chicago White Sox will show life. The Twins are trending down, and I like what I've seen from the White Sox lately. The White Sox schedule will get a little bit easier. They have some home games coming up. A lot of Tigers and Royals on their schedule, and I think the White Sox will improve. I think Lucas Giolito will start to pitch better. Reynaldo Lopez is off to a good start. Jose Abreu's played well. Nicky Demolico's played well. Matt Davidson's been great. And I think the White Sox will show some life in the American League Central, and I won't be shocked if they are in third or even second place in the division come the end of May. Isaiah Kiner-Felfair and Ronald Guzman look like keepers for the Rangers. These guys are off to a good start so far, and they'll continue that in the month of May. Sean Manaea continues to look like an all-star. I'm buying the Sean Manaea hype. I'm buying that this is his breakout. He will be on the all-star team, and I'm a big fan of Manaea. And as I mentioned before, the Royals regret that one. This is a fun one. I think Shohei Ohtani hits a walk-off home run against somebody. I don't know who, but I think Shohei Ohtani will hit a walk-off home run that gets ESPN excited. Mitch Haniger regresses. Haniger's off to a great start to the season. I had him on my all-star list, but I think he is bound for regression. Ahmad Rosario plays better, and Maikel Franco regresses. Ahmed Rosario's off to a slow start for the Mets, and I think he'll finally live up to prospect type a little bit. Maikel Franco's off to a solid start this year for the Phillies, but I think he regresses. The Cardinals and the Brewers will be second and third in their division, respectively. The Pirates are currently in first right now, but I think the Cubs will ultimately be in first, and second place and third place, respectively, will be the Cardinals and the Brewers, as both of those teams will start to prove that they're for real. Bounce-back hitter in the National League will be Joey Votto, who was off to a slow start. He's shown signs of life lately, and I think he'll hit 10-plus home runs this month. I love Votto. I was surprised that Byron Price benched him before he got fired from his job, but I like Votto, and I think he's shown some life the last couple weeks, and I think he'll put together a monster month for the Reds, as they will no longer have the worst record in baseball. The Diamondbacks will miss Robbie Ray while he's hurt. I like Ray. I think he's their best pitcher, but he hasn't been their best pitcher this season. That's been Patrick Corbin. But I think they'll miss Robbie Ray. Christian Villanueva regresses. He's off to a great start for the Padres, and I think he regresses a little bit. And my last one, Brendan Rodgers gets promoted. I think that will be the case, as he will see some playing time at some point. Maybe an injury happens. Maybe LeMahieu goes out a little bit. So, should be interesting to see what Brendan Rodgers does. But I think he gets the call up this month. Those are my predictions for May. Now I'm going to do my 2014 NFL redraft. I'm going to make this quick. Not really go through much explanations. 1, Texans, Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo would easily be their future franchise quarterback. 2, Rams, Aaron Donald. He is certainly the best defensive player to come out of this draft. 3, Jacksonville Jaguars, Derek Carr. He'd be their franchise quarterback, and he's a better quarterback than Blake Bortles. 4, Bills, Odell Beckham Jr. He'd be their number 1 receiver easily. Number 5, Oakland Raiders, Khalil Mack, no do-over there. 6, Falcons, Jadeveon Clowney, fit really nice in that defense. 7, Bucks, Mike Evans, no do-over there. 8, Browns, Zach Martin. Zach Martin would be a great guy on the Browns to protect their quarterback. 9, Vikings, Anthony Barr, no do-over there. 10, Lions, Devontae Freeman. He'd easily be their number 1 back. 12, Tennessee Titans, Taylor Lewan, no do-over there. 12, Giants, Andrew Norwell. He'd be a great player on this offensive line, protecting Eli Manning. Number 13, Rams, Brandon Cooks. Funny how things work out, because they traded for Brandon Cooks. So that just is funny. 14, Bears, Jarvis Landry. He'd be their number 1 receiver. 15, Pittsburgh Steelers, Ryan Shazier. No do-over there. 16, Cowboys, Trey Turner. With Zach Martin off the board, they go with another guard in Turner, who's done a good job protecting Cam Newton. 17, Baltimore Ravens, C.J. Mosley. No do-over there. 18, New York Jets, Teddy Bridgewater. That's funny how things work out again. Teddy Bridgewater is currently on the Jets roster. Maybe he would have started for them those few years when he was healthy before his injury. 19 Miami Dolphins, Devontae Adams. He'd be their number one receiver now that Jarvis Landry is no longer on that team. 20 New Orleans Saints, Kelvin Benjamin. He'd be a solid weapon for Drew Brees. 24 Packers, Clinton Dix. No do-over there. 22 Browns, Blake Bortles. Bortles isn't really a franchise quarterback, but he's shown improvement last year. So, should be interesting what kind of year he has this year. 23 Kansas City Chiefs. Again, funny how things work out because the pick there is Sammy Watkins. Watkins is now on the Chiefs roster as they signed him in free agency. 24 Bengals, Jason Verrett. He'd fit nicely in that secondary. 25 Chargers, Malcolm Butler. They take Butler with Verrett off the board, as Butler's shown to be a top corner for the Patriots last couple years, although Bill Belichick stupidly benched him in the Super Bowl. 26 Philadelphia Eagles, Marquise Lee. Lee proved to be a steal where the Jaguars picked him. Lee would be a nice fit on the Eagles. 27 Cardinals, Telvin Smith. 28 Carolina Panthers, Allen Robinson. Robinson's a great player, would be a nice weapon for Cam Newton. 29 Patriots, DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence is coming off a career year with Dallas. Lawrence will fit nicely with Bill Belichick. 30 49ers, Allen Hurns. Hurns has proved to be a steal. I can't believe this guy wasn't drafted. He's so good. 31 Denver Broncos, Weston Richburg. He'd be a nice fit on that offensive line. 32 Minnesota Vikings, A.J. McCarron. They take him with Teddy Bridgewater off the board. That's the redraft. Now I'm going to give out my draft grades for everybody. This was pretty hard to do because not every team picked their needs. I'm just going to say the team, the grade, and explain why. Atlanta Falcons, I'd give them a D because they failed to address three needs, such as offensive line, tight end, and defensive end. If not for the Calvin Ridley pick that was a steal, they would have gotten an F. Arizona Cardinals get a B+, and that's solely because of the selection of Josh Rosen. Moving up to get him was a great move. They failed to address linebacker and safety, which cost them an A grade. Ravens get a B. They didn't address their need at running back. Otherwise, they had an okay draft. I didn't like them taking the tight end in the first round, though. They could have gotten him in the second round. And they probably should have went with Calvin Ridley in the first round. Buffalo Bills get an A solely because they went up and got Josh Allen to get their franchise quarterback. And the other reason why is that they got Tremaine Edmonds, which was a steal for them at 16 while trading up to do so. The Chicago Bears get a B-. They failed to address two needs in the secondary, which is why they get that grade. Otherwise, they had an okay draft. The Carolina Panthers get an A. They didn't have much needs. They failed to address their offensive line. But the reason why they got an A instead of an A- was because of the pick of DJ Moore, which I thought was a steal. The Cincinnati Bengals get an A+. I think they had a tremendous draft to address all their needs. They got a steal with Billy Price. They got a couple other steals that I liked. They never really messed up anything, so props to the Bengals. The Cleveland Browns get an A, even though not a lot of people love their selections of Denzel Ward and Baker Mayfield, and that's why they don't get an A+. And they also didn't address the safety position. The Dallas Cowboys get a B. They failed to address needs in their secondary, but the reason why they get an 87, which turns out to be a B, which is because they picked Leighton Vander Esch, which I thought was a steal. So that prevented them from getting perhaps a B- instead of a B. The Denver Broncos get a B. They failed to address their quarterback, and that's the sole reason why they get a B here. Their grade would have been much worse if they did not get Bradley Chubb. The Detroit Lions get a B-. They failed to address defensive tackle and linebacker. Green Bay Packers get a B+. I think they had an excellent draft, although they failed to address the defensive tackle spot and safety to replace Randall. But they got a couple steals, so I like what Green Bay did. Houston didn't have many needs, and they didn't have a first-round pitch, which kind of hurt them. But they get a B+ for me. They had some good selections. They addressed the needs that I thought they had to address, so good job by Houston. The Indianapolis Colts get a C+. If they didn't pick Quentin Nelson, that grade probably is a D. Because I think Nelson was the third best player in this draft, and they got him. The Colts failed to address their secondary and the tight end position. They got a couple nice running backs in the draft as well. And the Jacksonville Jaguars get a B. They didn't have many needs. They failed to address the tight end position, and they happened to address their offensive line and their wide receiving corps a little bit, so that gets them a B. Credit to Tom Coughlin there. The Kansas City Chiefs get a B as well. They failed to address the need at wide receiver. The Chargers get an A-. This grade would have been much worse if they didn't pick Derwin James. They failed to address the edge rusher a little bit. They go with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. But I like that they addressed their offensive line. And obviously the James pick was humongous. The Rams get a C. They failed to address needs at tight end and cornerback. I think they could have used a little bit more secondary help. They addressed the offensive line and defensive end spots, which is pretty good. The Miami Dolphins get an A despite not picking a possible future franchise quarterback. They failed to address the defensive end spot. The pick of Minkah Fitzpatrick solely gets them an A, as well as the pick of Mike Gesicki, who is the best tight end in the draft. So those are two really good picks by the Dolphins, which earns them the A grade. The Minnesota Vikings get an A. They addressed most of their needs. They took a reach with Mike Hughes, which pretty much cost them the A+ grade. The New England Patriots get a C+. They didn't really find the right guy, in my opinion, to replace Tom Brady long-term, but that's okay. I didn't penalize them for much for that. They failed to address their defensive line, and they're in the safety position. The Sonny Michel pick was good. They upgraded wide receiver and tight end a little bit. I like the pick of Isaiah Wynn. That was a nice pick. But the failed addressings of the safety position and the defensive line is why they have a C+ grade. The New Orleans Saints get a C-. That was awful that they went up and traded for Marcus Davenport. They could have gotten him potentially at 18 instead of 12. Like, come on. And they failed to address tight end and linebacker. They did a nice job fixing the safety position a little bit. They got some receivers. They got help on the edge rush. But they get a C- in my opinion. The New York Giants get an A. They did a nice job. They got the best player in the draft in Saquon Barkley, and that alone, in my opinion, gets them the A. The most interesting pick, in my opinion, was Kyle Lauletta, the quarterback of Richmond. A lot of people have him compared to Jimmy Garoppolo. I thought the better pick for the Giants would have been Luke Falk, but that's okay. I like Lauletta too. And I didn't realize I had him ranked this high on my list. But I'm not sure about Lauletta and how he can handle New York. But hey, we'll see. Maybe he's the long-term replacement for Eli Manning. I gave them a couple points for that pick. The Barkley pick was big. That was the best player in the draft. They failed to address edge rusher. I love the pick of Lorenzo Carter from Georgia. He is pretty much an edge rusher, so I guess they actually did address that need a little bit. So the one need they kind of failed to address was cornerback. But that said, they get a 93, which results to an A. The Jets, they get a C. But The Jets, they get a C, but they didn't really have that many picks after trading up from the Colts spot to get Darnold. Darnold's the sole reason why that's a C. They didn't really address offensive line, defensive end, and wide receiver that much. Although the Darnold pick is the one that matters the most. So the Jets get a C. The Oakland Raiders get an A. I thought they had a really good draft. The lone area that they kind of failed to address was safety. They got a couple good receivers, a couple good linemen. Colton Miller was a solid pick. Maurice Hurst might be the steal of the draft. He was projected to be a high first-round pick, but he dropped due to that heart condition. Good job by John Gruden by getting that player. But they get an A. If that weren't the case, they'd probably have a B. Philadelphia Eagles, a team that didn't have many needs, gets an A-. The one thing they didn't really address was wide receiver. They addressed their secondary a little bit, and I like the Dallas Goedert pick, and they addressed the offensive line a little bit, so that results to an A-. Again, they didn't have many picks. The Pittsburgh Steelers get a C-. That was an awful first-round pick. I'm not a fan of their first-round pick. There were better picks on the board than Terrell Edmonds, better safeties on the board. There were better options there. An interesting pick was Mason Rudolph of Oklahoma State. He might be the long-term replacement for Ben Roethlisberger, so I pretty much like that pick. They failed to address tight end. They failed to address a possible replacement for Ryan Shazier for this season. And they failed to address the edge rusher, so that's where you get your C-. The San Francisco 49ers get an A. They addressed pretty much all their needs, in my opinion. What cost them the A+ was the Mike McGlinchey pick, although I have him ranked pretty high on my player board. But they had better choices there. They could have gone with Tremaine Edmonds, or they could have gone with Minkah Fitzpatrick. But no, they decided to go with McGlinchey. But other than that, that's why they get an A. The Seattle Seahawks get a D. They failed to address a bunch of needs, such as defensive tackle, wide receiver, and linebacker. The Rashad Penny pick is the sole reason why this is a D. You could have gotten him in the 3rd or 4th round. And there were better players on the board for Seattle that they could have picked. Like, they could have went out and got Mike Hughes, the corner from Central Florida. Or Sonny Michel even. I wouldn't have minded Sonny Michel there. He's a better player than Rashad Penny. But yeah, that pick is the sole reason why that's a D. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers get a C. They failed to address the defensive end position. And the real reason why this is a C is because they took a couple reaches and a couple picks that they made didn't make sense, such as Vita Vea. They didn't have a need at defensive tackle. I mean, you could have went and got Tremaine Edmonds, who was still on the board. You could have gotten Derwin James. He was still on the board. Like, come on, Bucs. I know you traded back and got more picks out of it, but there are better players on the board there. I'm sorry. The Tennessee Titans get a B+. They failed to address wide receiver and defensive tackle, but the sole reason why they're at 88 is the trade-up of Rashad Evans was really, really good. And they also got another steal in Harold Landry. And last but not least, the Washington Redskins get a B. They failed to address edge rusher, but other than that, I think they had a nice draft. Deron Payne was their pick at 13, but I think they picked him because Vea was off the board. Vea would have made more sense, but the Bucs took him ahead of Washington. And I mentioned that the theme of the first round was the team picking ahead of you, picking the guy you really, really want. So, and that was the case for Washington and Tampa with Vita Vea. Vea was picked 12th to the Bucs instead of 13th to the Redskins, and 13 Redskins was where Vea was pegged to go by a lot of people, and Washington really liked Vea. But other than that, I think the Redskins had a nice draft, so they get an a B. Those are my draft grades. And last but not least, I'm going to do future power rankings, as these aren't really projected just for this upcoming season. They are involved with the long term as well, so which is up to the next 5 years. 32 is the Miami Dolphins. They don't have a long-term answer at quarterback, and I don't think they think that Ryan Tannehill is that. 31 is the Washington Redskins. They're riding with Alex Smith, but I think he's on the back end of his career. Do I think the Redskins can be good this year? Yes, but they don't have a long-term answer at quarterback. I was surprised that they didn't pick up like Luke Falk or take a chance with like J.T. Barrett or somebody like that in this year's draft. Or even Mason Rudolph, because he was dropping. 30, the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know if they think Andy Dalton's the long-term guy for them at quarterback. There's rumors about them possibly taking Lamar Jackson. And some of those guys are aging. A.J. Green is still in his prime, but how much longer is he going to be good? 29 is the Los Angeles Chargers. How much longer is Phillip Rivers going to be around? They really don't have a long-term answer at quarterback. 28 is the New England Patriots. That's another team that is pretty much stuck in limbo in terms of who's their future long-term quarterback. And Bill Belichick might be out the door soon, too. Don't rule out the possibility that he's gone within the next 3 to 5 years. 27 is the New York Giants. Similar scenario to the Chargers and the Pats and the Bengals and the Redskins about their future at quarterback. Is it Kyle Oeta? Is it Davis Webb? If one of those guys pan out, that'd be good for them long term. But Eli Manning is on the wrong side of 30 and is shown decline the last 2 seasons. 26, a team that's similar to those teams, the New Orleans Saints. Who's their long-term answer at quarterback? I thought they were going to take Lamar Jackson at 12 when they traded up. Like, that's who you trade up for, a future franchise quarterback, not a defensive end. But I like their young defense, which I think is pretty good. But I'm just not sure about the quarterback position long-term. 25 is the Baltimore Ravens. They picked Lamar Jackson. They were the team that traded up for him. I think they look at him as the long-term answer to Joe Flacco, as Flacco's starting to head for decline a little bit, as he's even shown decline over the last couple of years. The Ravens really don't have much on offense. I like Hayden Hurst, but I don't think he was worth a first-round pick. 24 is the Denver Broncos, another team that doesn't really have a long-term answer at quarterback. Paxton Lynch might be a complete bust, for what we know. Should be interesting. They have Case Keenum there for short term, but I think they'll be in the market for a quarterback next year, as well as teams like the Giants and the Saints and the Pats and the Chargers and the Bengals and even the Redskins for long-term purposes. 23 is the Dallas Cowboys. This is going to be debatable, as many people argue with me about this one. I think their conference as a whole is really good, but I don't see them being really good in the long term. Like, how much longer will Ezekiel Elliott be an effective running back? Is Dak Prescott, are we sure he's good? Because I saw a lot of regression from him last year. Their defense isn't very good, although they picked up a solid player with their first-round pick in Leighton Vander Esch. Number 22 is the Cleveland Browns. They think they found their quarterback of the future in Baker Mayfield. This is certainly a franchise on the rise. They have a good GM. Although the Mayfield and Ward selections were questionable by many in this year's draft. 21, the Buffalo Bills. They picked their franchise quarterback for the future in Josh Allen. They don't really have that many good receivers or tight ends or even running backs. But I think they're trending up long term. Number 20 is the New York Jets. I love Sam Darnold. I think he's going to turn out to be the best quarterback from this class. I think that he has the upside of a Matt Ryan, but the downside of a Jay Cutler. So he's going to be somewhere in between there. Let's see if he makes the Jets the best team in New York over the next 3 to 5 years. I think that is possible if Sam Darnold becomes a franchise quarterback and the Giants don't have a franchise quarterback of the future. 19, the Detroit Lions. How much longer is Matthew Stafford around long term? They found themselves a running back in the draft. They aren't very good defensively, although I like Matt Patricia. 18, the Indianapolis Colts. This is a team that's still pretty short on talent, although they've got some good players in the draft. Andrew Luck's going to be back healthy. 17 is the Seattle Seahawks. This is a team entering a bit of a rebuild. Russell Wilson's still around, and Wilson and Luck are the sole reasons why the Colts and the Seahawks are high on these rankings. 16, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a little bit high. This is banking on Jameis Winston's potential. I'm a Winston fan, and I think he's only going to get better. And Mike Evans is a big part of this ranking, too. 15 is the Carolina Panthers. I still think Cam Newton will be around long term. I think Christian McCaffrey will eventually be a really good player as well. 14, the Green Bay Packers. How much longer will Aaron Rodgers be around? He's in a contract year, I believe, next year. Not this upcoming season, but in 2019. But I think they'll bring him back on a long-term deal. So that's the sole reason why Green Bay is 14. But I still think that there isn't that much talent there, although Jimmy Graham's a nice piece. But they are built short-term, similar to the New York Giants, similar to the New Orleans Saints, similar to the Chargers, similar to another team that I'm about to talk about in a couple minutes. Number 13, and that is that team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like Green Bay, I think they're built currently short-term. The reason why they're this high is because Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger are still around for now. Ben Roethlisberger has shown not that many signs of decline yet. I think Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown have really helped Roethlisberger. And that's how I think the Giants are building their team. I think they want to be like the Steelers and even the Chargers to some degree with Melvin Gordon and Keenan Allen. The Giants want Eli Manning to look young again, which is what Los Angeles and Pittsburgh have done with Ben Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers, respectively. Number 12 is the Minnesota Vikings. This probably should be a higher ranking, but I'm not so sold on Kirk Cousins being a top-flight quarterback. I think it certainly helps him that there's talent on this team. There's two really good receivers in Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, a good tight end with Kyle Rudolph. They have a solid run game with Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray. Their defense is really good. And they have a lot of guys locked up long term. So it should be interesting to see what they do. Number 11 is the Chicago Bears. This ranking is solely based on the fact that I think Mitch Trubisky is going to end up making a leap. And I really like what they did in the draft. Anthony Miller's a solid receiver out of Memphis. Allen Robinson was a great pickup in free agency. Roquan Smith's going to prove to be a big steal in the draft by where they picked them. I think Leonard Floyd will turn out to be a solid player. I really like what this team did these last couple years. I like Ryan Pace, but I think he's a GM that's on a bit of a hot seat right now, as well as New York's Mike McCagnon. 10, Jacksonville Jaguars. Even though Blake Bortles, I'm not really sold on him being a long-term guy for them, their defense is just outstanding all around. And Leonard Fournette is such a great player as well. Their receiving corps are mediocre right now, but I really like Marquise Lee, and I think he's going to be really solid long-term, and they don't really have a tight end. But the defense and Fournette alone is the reason why they're this high. 9 is the Arizona Cardinals. This is banking on Josh Rosen living up to potential, and as well as his weapons around him. I don't think Larry Fitzgerald's there long-term, but this is me banking on the guys that they have on their defense. The rest of their receiving core I like. This is me banking on David Johnson being on their team long-term as well. banking on their new coaching staff, and that's why the Cardinals are so much higher than the Jets, because Sam Darnold's supporting staff is weaker compared to Josh Rosen's. 8, Atlanta Falcons. I still think Matt Ryan's a really good quarterback. He might show decline over the next 3 to 5 years, but that talent on the defensive side of the football is really, really good. And their running game's really good. Julio Jones is still around. I like their coaching staff more than most, though. So that's why they're this high. Number 7 is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be a breakout star in the league this year. And I like the addition of Sammy Watkins. And I think this is a team that's being underrated a little bit by the media, although they might not be that good this upcoming season, but in future seasons, I'm high on the Chiefs long term. 6 is the Tennessee Titans. This ranking is solely based on that I think Marcus Mariota is going to make a monster leap. I like their running game with Derrick Henry there. Their receiving core is pretty good. Their defense is pretty solid as well. And I like the new coaching staff there. Number 5 is the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo is the big reason why they made some solid picks in the draft. I didn't really love the McGlinchey pick, but I think he's going to help them. They improved their running game with Jaren McKinnon, and he'll catch passes for them in the backfield. I think he's a very sneaky good signing for them. I like their defense with the addition of Richard Sherman, although he could be a bit of a head case. And they improved their defense a little bit in the draft as well. Number 4 is the Oakland Raiders. This is solely based on John Gruden and improvement from Derek Carr and Amari Cooper. I think Colton Miller will prove to be a great pick when it's all said and done. Maurice Hurst will help them on the defensive line. Khalil Mack's still around, so the Raiders get a lot of my respect. Number 3 is the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champions. Carson Wentz will be there long term, as I think Nick Foles will be traded somewhere. They are really good defensively, a solid running game, good receiving core. Dallas Goedert will fit nicely with Zach Ertz. The Eagles can't pay everybody, but I think this team and this franchise is heading in the right direction, even after winning a Super Bowl. Number 2 is the Los Angeles Rams. This is banking on Jared Goff getting even better. Todd Gurley's still around. Aaron Donald's still around. I think the Rams will eventually pay Aaron Donald. Brandon Cooks is here now. I love Sean McVay, and this team's headed for big things in the future. Number 1 is the Houston Texans. They have a franchise quarterback in Deshaun Watson, who's coming off the ACL surgery, but I think he's special. J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney are great foundation pieces defensively. I love DeAndre Hopkins. Will Fuller is a really good receiver as well. I think that franchise is on the rise, and I don't think they regret trading their first-round pick from this year in that Deshaun Watson deal, because I really think Watson is going to be something special in the league, and that is pretty much the reason why I have the Houston Texans number 1 on these NFL Future Power Rankings. That's it for the podcast today. I know this was a super, super, super long one. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything, doing, I believe it's my NBA redraft from 2014 and a lot more. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.